Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Too Ambitious. I am so happy to be here with you all this morning, this afternoon, or wherever you may join me from. I want to tell you all, I appreciate you all showing up every Thursday to watch this show with me. And today I have a treat for you. You're probably guessing, what's the treat, Trish? Well, if you haven't taken the LSAT, that is the law school admissions test, or consider taking the LSAT, this episode is for you. So today's guest, Ellen Cassidy, is the first and only female founder in LSAT, and she's the founder of the tutoring company Elemental Prep, which is an online Hogwarts for LSAT prep. Yes, that's right. I said that right, Hogwarts. So we know it's pretty phenomenal already. So Ellen is also the most successful author of the Loophole in LSAT Logical Reasoning book. It is best-selling LSAT guide on Amazon. That's right. So buckle in. I want you all to give Ellen Cassidy a big warm welcome to Too Ambitious. Ellen, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. What a kind introduction.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the work that you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. Your passion for it is very, very addictive. I was down several rabbit holes.
Wow. I mean, I'm very flattered. No, whenever anybody outside of kind of the little world is interested in what I do, I always take it as a big opportunity. It's so exciting.
Yes, yes, yes. And I mean, I can only imagine. So, we only have a short amount of time together. So let's dive right in. You've had an interesting story about how you realized your passion for the LSAT. It all started with a hot tub party, which is pretty interesting. Tell me more about attending a party, essentially, that changed your life.
Yeah, so I had just dropped out of an MFA playwriting program at Rutgers after one semester, um, and was like, "Oh no, I'm not going to make it in professional theater." I was bullied out of the program and went back to live with my boyfriend in our old apartment and was like, "Oh no, what am I going to do? This is bad." um, and so I was kind of reeling for a life direction, and there was this guy who invited me to a hot tub party, and I'm not the hot tub party type, but my best friend was like, "No, come on, you've been down, you're not knowing what you're doing. Come to this party. You're gonna meet my old friend." And so I went to the party, and the old friend was telling these funny stories about being a public defender, and I was like, "Oh, that's it. Like, law is hilarious. I've always liked tests. I should take the LSAT." Like that actually was the justification, was like these funny
Yeah.
stories. And so I bought some LSAT books before I even left the party on my phone, and then onward from there.
And it all took off from there.
Okay, from there.
And a lot of things that you're sharing too is, it sounds like to me anyway, is that you took so many different pivots. Like you didn't
Mm,
take the traditional path to where you are right now. You went into Rutgers and didn't work out, and you're like, all right, this is not for me, I'm going to move on. To even deferring Harvard 3 times, like, that's unheard of, Ellen. Tell me what your thought process was like, and
yeah.
what was the outcome of that?
Yeah. So, when I first took the LSAT, I took it kind of shoddily studying and, did well and was like, oh, I walked out of the test and was like, I wish I could do the LSAT forever. And, my ex-boyfriend was like, and we're going home. Like, that's not like a real life path. And so I didn't really pursue LSAT as any sort of career in that like first, say, year. But then I applied to law school because I thought, okay, that's what I have to do. But in the meantime, I was like, oh, let me get like a part-time job, like, for a test prep company or something. And, a friend referred me to a student here or there. And I was like, kind of just feeling my way through tutoring and was like, wow, I really love this. Like, this is where I am the most like awake and alive and excited
Right.
to like be a person. And so when I got into Harvard Law School, I basically asked myself, do I want to make a $300,000 bet that I will love the law as
Right.
much or more as I
Right.
love doing this? And so
Mhm.
the easy way to find that out is to just defer and then
Yeah.
defer and defer, so that you can keep them on the hook while you're, figuring it out. But I think the truth is really after that first deferral, after like I was admitted and I immediately deferred,
Yeah.
I was probably never going to go. I think that was the true decision. It was more just I had to gain the courage to actually truly say no and bear the brunt of societal expectation and everyone telling me I was a huge idiot, which happened.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. As people do, when you talk about, Harvard and deferring 3 times, I'm sure most people think, wow, you're absolutely nuts. And yeah, why would you do that? But I mean, you stayed the course, and you really bet on yourself. And, tell me how you started your company, Elemental Prep. And, just for everybody watching, was to help students to pass the LSAT. Now, the development of it took some time as well. So yeah, a long time, maybe 5 years, So tell me about that process and what was going on right in that time, because getting a business off the ground, especially for something that you're extremely passionate about, couldn't have been easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key is I never really thought of Elemental as a business until like relatively recently. That to me it was just the thing I loved doing. And I like back in the day before my book is The Loophole. Before The Loophole came out, there was actually like a fair amount of time from 2011, 2012 when I took the LSAT / first started teaching the LSAT to The Loophole came out at the end of 2018. And
Okay.
for that whole period of time, I was literally some nobody with tutoring people in her apartment in Palo Alto. And I didn't even have a website. I mean, I was basically referred through friends and things like that of just randomly tutoring people here and there and working on this book, getting feedback on this book and all of that stuff. And just really like pushing the project forward. The thing that I always said, I work for the book doesn't work for me. And I was just called that I wanted to make this thing that was like the best thing I could ever make. And I always say The Loophole is the better version of me. And I get corrected by people all the time of like, Ellen, don't be down on yourself. And I'm like, but The Loophole though.
Exactly.
And really, it was when The Loophole came out that I think I had to learn by force all of a sudden how to run a business, because I was very blessed in that The Loophole kind of blew up almost overnight on Reddit and gained a following very quickly. And then all of a sudden, me, some random girl who's really good at the LSAT, in her part, is all of a sudden having to know how to handle like much larger sums of money, how to like run a calendar, handle demand, all these different things that I was never trained to do. I was just having to figure it out as I went along in response to demand.
Right. And I mean, I think that's the origin story of a lot of entrepreneurs, is figuring it out. What was the hardest part to figure out in the beginning?
Oh man. I mean, I am naturally a very not even back of the envelope record keeper, which I mean is so bad. I remember when like some of my friends first saw like in say 2019, 2020, how much money I was having passed through the company with no billing records. I didn't know who had paid and who hadn't, like at all. And I was like, they'll get to it. Like, I mean, so bad. And it's just not my natural interest. Cause like I said before, like I never did this to make a bunch of money. And it's so funny because people, online yell about my tutoring rate a lot, but that was never my focus. And it's never been the thing that sitting there and running numbers is like what brings me joy. Like I measure my, like why I'm doing this in terms of the impact I have, the students I help, and making cool shit. Like I always call tutoring like my laboratory. Like I love making things for people to solve their problems, and that's what makes me happy. Not hitting the Q2 rev goal or whatever.
Right. Well, I'm sure by now you have someone who manages that part of it.
No. Kind of. I'm hiring someone to manage that actually right now.
Okay.
I know. This far in the future.
This far. It's about time, Ellen.
13 years in. And now it's like, we should get a real person to do
we should have someone.
No,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It's okay. No judgment, no judgment, you know? I mean, what you're doing is so successful and resonating with so many people and helping so many people. So you're doing exactly what you set out to do, you know, in terms of the marketing of, you know, elemental prep. I would assume you would have built a pipeline, you know, with universities and everything like that who are always looking to take this test.
Oh,
So,
Trish.
yeah.
You take me for far more competent than I am.
I
No,
mean, you know.
you know my marketing strategy? Like, so Loophole goes up on Amazon
Yeah.
December 6th, 2018. And I sent it to the printer, I think beginning of October or something, because I self-published the Loophole.
Okay.
And so then after that big push to get it all to the printer, I was like, well, I should think about someone trying to buy this. All right. Now I'm allowed to go on Reddit. I made this like stupid deal with myself that I wouldn't have a public persona until the book was done, which looking back, this was like a very stupid thing to do. But it was like this kind of thing of you haven't earned it. You
Right.
don't deserve. I don't know why I thought this. So I made the Elemental Ellen Reddit handle, and I basically just helped people for free on Reddit, never saying my company name, never saying the name of the book or the name of the methodologies. Just whenever someone would ask for help on Reddit, on LSAT Reddit, I would say, oh, okay, I'm going to chat you, because they never put enough info for you to really help them
Right.
in their
Right.
post. And so I'd go back and forth for hours with individual people in private message helping them. And then on Christmas Eve, somebody actually posted like a long thing with like enough information to help them. So I wrote like a long comment and I mentioned one tiny thing from my book just because I thought I could help. And I didn't think I would get, you know, killed on Reddit for doing it because I was writing a long thing. And then offered him free tutoring on Christmas Eve. And we got together and we met for free tutoring on Christmas Eve. And somebody Googled the piece of that comment that I made, which is Clear, CLIR, which is a feature of the Loophole, bought the Loophole, and on January 1st, 2019, made a Reddit post that blew up, and the Loophole had a following from then on. And so in recognition of this, of like the karma of Reddit, every Christmas Eve, I go on Reddit and offer free tutoring on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Yeah.
Oh, that's really awesome. And that's great to know, by the way. So everybody who's watching, you know,
If you want free
Christmas,
tutoring, hang out on RLSAT on Christmas Eve.
Yeah. I mean, if you have nothing else better to do on Christmas Eve, and you have a little bit of time, you know, because sometimes you really do have some time around the holidays.
It's
So,
true.
you know, but, you know, I think it's still brilliant. I mean, the power of social media, you know, and Reddit is something that, you know, you have so many people on there who are excited about one particular topic or subject. So you obviously very, very smart to tap into that, you know, that fandom, if you will, you know, so kudos to you.
I mean, it's coming up hard though. I mean, coming up on Reddit is coming up hard, but it's funny because like until maybe a year ago, I really did not know what a funnel was. And probably now I still don't really know. I just kind of know because I'm in like a founder community now that, you know, they use the word a lot. But it's just so funny that you actually can do a lot even if you don't know all of the like proper fancy business speak, all the like marketing plans, all of that different kind of stuff. That if you're passionate about the product and you're passionate about helping the customer and you genuinely care about them, not you care, you know, until your own self-interest is served, but you genuinely care, people can tell when you mean it. And so then, you know, good things just come back to you and you don't even have to necessarily mind it that much.
Yes, I completely agree with you 1000%. You know, you put the good work out there and it comes back to you, and sometimes in ways that you could never ever imagine. So, you know, I love your marketing strategy. All right. And
If you
obviously,
call it that.
yeah, I mean, it worked. It worked.
It worked.
You know? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, you know, the LSAT itself. You know, I've known people who've taken the test for everything that you're doing with the LSAT and everything that you're teaching. What is the scale score that you should be looking for, and what's your methodology behind acing the tests?
Sure. So, I mean, the scaled score people want depends on their goals. Like if somebody, you know, is dead set on the Harvard Law School or something, well, they should look at the median, and that's a 174, which is a 99th percentile LSAT. Usually to get into, you know, the top law schools, you want to be looking at 170, which is the top ish 3% of test
Okay.
takers.
Okay.
Median is 152, and there are plenty of law schools that will take somebody who's at median. And so it all depends on where somebody's trying to go, what they would necessarily aim for. Um, in terms of my approach to the test, my approach is much more kind of base level skills holistic, where
Mhm.
I don't find much joy in like cheap test prep tricks that are going to expire the day somebody takes the test, and teach people to see information as lesser and that they shouldn't have to remember details and things. Like, I think that's silly. I
Yeah.
think that you should expand your mind to take in more and work with more. And so the way I train people is to have them learn to read and retain information in a more holistic and permanent way that actually helps them in law school and beyond. And so I've been recently alerted that like people care about the ability to do that outside
Mm.
of LSAT. And so I've been recently motivated to start thinking about more general audience products and
Oh,
coaching for this skill set, because a
mhm.
lot of people in my founder community actually were like, "Oh, I want to learn how to do that. I want to know how to remember and work with information mentally." And
Yes.
so but that's the foundation of everything I do with LSAT. And so it's just
Yeah.
that one area of the world where someone has like a really high stakes reason to care about the thing I care about, because
Right.
the ability to read and retain and work with information essentially determines your score.
Yeah. And what I find interesting too is that, this for a lot of people take the test over and over and over again.
Mhm.
What's your thought process when, let's say, a student comes to you and they're like, I've taken the test like 5 times? Like, can you identify? I'm guessing you can identify right away what they're doing wrong and how to solve that issue for them, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the sad thing is there's like a 5 times in 5 years limit too. That like there and 3 times in one testing year and 7 times lifetime. And so they've instituted a few testing limits that make it challenging. But if let's say somebody's taken it out twice or 3 times or something and they have tests left,
Mhm.
then you want to look at what they've done so far and like where they've gotten, how far they've gotten. And
Mhm.
it can be challenging because often when someone has like a long test prep history and they've, been at it a long time, they'll take one of two paths.
Yeah.
One, they'll be very stubborn because they think they know everything about the test because they've been at it a long time and
Right.
they've made it to the high 160s. So how could they ever learn anything?
Right.
Or things like that. Or they are so beaten down, downtrodden that they're like, I'll try anything. I'm ready to pitch it all to the wind. I don't care. Screw everything I've learned for the past 2 years.
Right. Right.
And of course, for me, the second group is far
Yeah.
easier to work with. Whereas
Yeah.
I always think like LSAT prep, like the way I do it in tutoring, it's like I have to figure out, how to solve the puzzle of like what's wrong with them. And so it's like a chess game,
Yeah.
but you have to convince the pieces to move in the
Yes.
way you want them to. And it's your persuasive ability of like actually do the test the way I want you to do it that will determine if that chess piece actually goes to the spot that you want
Mm.
it to go, or if it's going to, nod at you and then go a different direction or not move at all. Um, that's tutoring.
Right, exactly. And what I wanna ask you too is about, like, the students themselves. So, what type of feedback have you gotten from some of your students who you've worked with? And how long do you work with them? Is it like a
It really
you know
varies.
Okay.
I always say it's like anywhere from 2 months to 2 years. And,
Okay.
I was responding to text messages from my student who's in her 3rd year of law school who was asking for a session to sign up for the bar with me. That, she's an outlier, but it it really, really varies according to what the person needs, where they're starting, what they want.
Mhm.
Some people honestly want a mentor, somebody who's going to
Okay.
be with them, say, through 3 years of undergrad, helping them pick their courses, helping them optimize the GPA, helping them, create like a full application to law school. And the
Right.
LSAT is just then part of what we do.
Right.
Other people, they're going to want, I don't know, a 30-point increase or something like that, which is like a large scale
Yeah,
increase.
it is,
And
yeah.
that's obviously going to take longer than somebody who wants 5 points and they're signed up for the test in 3 weeks,
Mm.
and then these are all very, very different issues to face and problems to solve, and all require like different kinds of approaches. But that's what keeps it exciting is like the
Yeah.
people always change and their problems always change.
Yeah. And I mean, you're like the solution to a lot of people's problems, right? Because a lot of people out there who want to, do really well on this test, I would assume too, you get in your head, like, if I don't do well on this test, like, I'm not going to get into the school of my choice and
Mm,
what I want, this could impact my livelihood in the future. So it's so much pressure. So you're solving, this sort of, it's a mind game that you're getting in there and you're helping them to find the solution. So, do you find that you're doing a lot of counseling too, I bet?
oh, definitely. I mean, my session at 7 a.m. this morning, at one point, she said she was having trouble with the question. She was like, "Well, I just have to accept that I'm mediocre." And
No.
I was sitting there and I was like, "No." Like, I mean, I interfered and was like, "What are you talking about? Stop saying things like that. Like, that's not true." And, confront it with the facts. But like sometimes they get so fixated on the difference between what they want and where they are now that they forget how far they've come,
Mhm.
and how, like, this girl was upset because she'd missed 3 on a logical reasoning section, and if you multiply that out and you get a scaled score, assuming a million different things, you're going to be at right below 170 basically.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so she would be in the top 6% instead of the top 3%. And that means if you play all these imagination games and
Right.
extrapolate out what the score would be,
Yeah.
she just has to accept that she's mediocre.
Oh
And
my
it's like, if there is ever anything that, could motivate an empathetic person
yeah.
to try to fix it, it's comments like that, where you just see somebody that they're intrinsically limiting themselves based on an internal conception rather
Yeah.
than even the data. Like, it wasn't even as though she had really done poorly. Do you know what
Mhm.
I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just so sad when you can see that students have this like trick mirror that they look at themselves in. And I mean, it's my job as much as I possibly can to interrupt it and, you know, put
Right.
in more healthy conceptions of self and process, and the fact that these scores are just the results of actions, not,
Mhm.
who you are. You can take different actions and you'll get a different score. And, we just need to like be process oriented and look at these as ways to look at the wrong answers as ways to improve.
Right.
But it's a lot easier said than done in
Yeah.
practice.
Did you ever imagine when you started this journey to being a tutor for LSAT that this emotional component of it would be a huge piece as well?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, when I first started off, like, back then, I had no schedule. So, every 2-hour session I did was like a 4-hour session in my living room at what people said I was a weird hippie with a picnic table in her living room. Which I don't think I'm that much of a hippie, but like,
Yeah,
okay.
you're like, "I don't know
Um,
about that."
and I would say probably if 50 to 70% of my tutoring sessions involve crying
Oh my
on their side.
yeah.
And I mean, there are people who cry every session.
Mm.
And that's always been true. I don't think that that's like a feature of LSAT prep.
Yeah.
Because I think, first off, most tutors are men and most of the industry is male dominated. And I think generally my students are going to feel more comfortable crying with me than they
Right.
are with somebody who's, standoffish and not really like emotionally available. And
Yeah.
I think that's why, I form such deeper bonds
Mhm.
with my students, that
Yeah.
like they know that I do care about them, and
Yeah.
I'm there for them as a person first,
Right.
and I'm there for whatever they need first.
Yeah.
And sure, that's going to involve the LSAT a lot of time. And, I'm happy to provide whatever insights on LSAT that I need to provide. Great, great, great. If we want to have like a super technical session where all we do is like tons of conditional logic, great.
Yeah.
But if we need to have a session where, you're sick and you're crying and that things like that, that impacts our outcome too. And
Yes.
all I want is for them to be successful. And I think that's really the most fun, intoxicating, mission-driven part of this whole thing, and what
Mhm.
made me like fall in love with it from the beginning. Of like, I really enjoy LSAT. I enjoy
Yeah.
doing it. I enjoy unlocking the puzzles. I enjoy being able to help people with it. But the thing that is, really fulfilling day in, day out is the relationships with the people,
Mhm.
for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and relationships matter, that connectivity is what keeps us all human, so I I am in awe of your passion and,
Oh, thank you.
it's extremely inspiring to see you so passionate about helping people to solve a problem, that for most, can have a long-term impact. So,
Mhm.
I kudos to you, big ups, as they
Well,
say,
thank
as people say.
you.
Yeah, of course, of course. And, so if someone can't, maybe can't necessarily afford to have you as a tutor, you have this wonderful book called The Loophole.
Yeah.
What can they learn from The Loophole? What can they expect from your book as opposed to, having you as a
Oh,
tutor?
well, I mean, everyone in tutoring's read The Loophole before they get there.
Oh, very
So,
cool.
oh yeah, I mean, The Loophole is my methodology. It's, 6 years of work of a complete system to
Mhm.
master LSAT logical reasoning and really reading comprehension as well. Um, and we're currently working on expanding it into a subscription online platform, which is super exciting. I know, very exciting. Hopefully that should get a wait list up for that pretty soon. But yeah, so people can learn my entire logical reasoning system from like a $30 book. I mean, that's the whole point. Is like
Yeah.
I give away, everything I had in 2018 in the
Mhm.
loophole,
Mhm.
and really everything I do with tutoring is just much more bespoke and applications of the loophole. Plus, I've invented some new things since the loophole came out, but
Nice.
they're all driven from the system that the loophole provides. And so, like, I never want cost to be a barrier to anyone. That's why I keep the
Yeah.
loophole purposefully cheap.
Yeah.
Is like I feel like everyone forgets that the loophole is the cheapest LSAT book, and that's not because it has to be; it's because we want it to be.
Okay, yeah, listen, I love that. It's a great flex, by the way, you know.
I mean, I've never raised the price since it came out, and it's like 20 to $30 cheaper than every other LSAT book by list price.
Wow.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
like I want it to be accessible, and like I put
Yeah.
my soul into that book. I said to my software developer who's taking the text of the book and putting it into this online platform, he was like, "Oh, but do you like what I've been doing?" I was like, "I don't think you get how much I trust you. My soul is in that book."
Yeah.
And I really believe that. Like, I get emotional every time I look at it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I bet, I bet, and but people are loving your book. I mean, the reviews that I've seen, and for anyone out there, you can easily buy Ellen's book, The Loophole, on Amazon. But some of the reviews that people are sharing as recently as July is like, this is the book for the LSAT. This book is an actual loophole. Ellen Cassidy dispels the notion that one cannot improve their reading and understanding abilities. I mean, amazing, innovative approach to mastering LSAT logic. I mean, those are reviews that some people would pay for. You know,
I mean, to fun fact, when the loophole first came out, I was accused of paying for reviews and doing AstroTurf
no,
Reddit marketing. Just for the record, never did. And it was this moment when it first became popular. It became basically like too popular too fast that a bunch of people started accusing me of shit that there was no basis
you
for the
know,
accusations.
yeah,
And it's just so funny you said that I spent the first few years after the loophole came out actually quelling suspicion that I had paid for all those reviews. And it was something that, like, as a feminist, I took massive offense
yeah,
to, because it was like everybody had to ask themselves, okay, this girl just showed up in LSAT.
yeah,
Could it be that she actually earned those reviews? She wrote a good book that people like? Or is
yeah.
it more likely that she paid people to lie and say that she did? And a lot of people said the second one. And to this day, I'm still always like very combative about, like, they're all real. Um,
Yeah, as you should. And yeah, I'm ready to fight because
I know, right?
yeah, I mean, to see your work and the passion that you have for it, the time that you put into it to make sure that it is something that actually impacts someone's life in a really positive way, it is offensive, to think, oh yeah, and then after that, I went to go pay for reviews. Like,
I
what?
know. I
Yeah,
know. No, I
like
mean,
what?
of course, that's all dulled down now. It's not
Yeah,
as big of
yeah.
an issue now, but in
Well, you're number one now.
2019,
So.
oh, that got my goat. I was I was real mad. But I mean, now I get so many beautiful, sweet emails too, even outside of
Yeah.
those reviews, of just people who they touch my heart so much. I put my email address in like the epilogue of the Loophole and tell people to email me. And so I often get really sweet emails.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Um, and so, what are the top three things that you can impart to anyone who's watching who is considering taking the LSAT or preparing for? What are the top three things that you should do before taking the test?
Okay. So I think first is emphasize understanding and retention of the text. Don't move on from text that you don't understand and expect to pick up the mess later, because that will not work. Um, do untimed practice before you do timed practice. If you go and immediately start trying to do it in the very aggressive 35-minute time limit, that will stunt your learning and your growth, and you'll feel like you're worse than you are when you just need to gradually like get faster, like a runner. A runner can't
Yeah.
do a 6-minute mile the first time they
Right.
run a mile. Like, you got to train to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And second off is, or third, I guess, is don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep trying and have faith in yourself, because
Mhm.
you're the one who's got to be for you in the end. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, don't
It's
give
so
up.
true. It's so true. Do you consider yourself ambitious, Ellen?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I mean, I I feel like I don't know how to consider what it would be like to not be ambitious,
Right, right.
right?
I mean, I think as women, it's one of our superpowers, ambition, So I want to thank you for taking the time today to be here with me,
Of
to
course.
share your passion and joy for the LSAT. It's contagious. I'm sure people that are like watching right now are probably like, I'm gonna go take the LSAT. They don't need
I
to.
don't know. I don't know, Tim. Hopefully,
They might
I've
not
at
even
least
need to.
done a little to repair its terrible image in the public. I always say people think of the LSAT as a love child of being stuck in a subway car and a root canal, and so maybe now it'll be a little less potently bad.
Yeah, yeah. Well, where can we find you, Ellen? Drop all the deets.
Oh yeah. So you can find me at LSAT Ellen on TikTok. You can find me elementalprep.com. You can search my name, Ellen Cassidy, on LinkedIn. I'm going to be launching a YouTube soon. And so if you search LSAT Ellen on YouTube, you'll be able to find that. But yeah,
All right,
check back
cool.
the website. See more.
I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations on all your success, Ellen, and keep doing what you're doing. We need more women like you out there who are passionate, who are successful, who are making it about the journey and not about the money, and really connecting with people in a real way. So thank you for that good energy that you're putting out there.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for having me on the show and for doing what you do.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone who joined us today for this amazing conversation. Join me next week where I'll have another phenomenal woman who is changing the world. So see you all next time. Bye, everyone.